Welcome to Plan 9 Crunch. I'm Doug Gibson. Here's Steve D. Stones with us. And we are going to talk about the cult film Spider Baby from 1967. Spider Baby was made in 64 and it was directed by Jack Hill, who is a cult figure. He directed a lot of those AIP pictures with Pam Grier. But anyways, Spider Baby was made and then went into bankruptcy, the producers, and got just a Heckle Jekyll release, in the late 60s. We'll talk about that more. But we want to show you the opening theme song, one of the most bizarre. It is sung by the star Lon Chaney Jr. Go for it, Jack.
Dreams and moans and bats and bones and teenage monsters in haunted homes, a ghost on the stair, a vampire's bite. Better beware, there's a full moon tonight. Spiders creep and crawl, boys and ghouls having a ball. Frankenstein, Dracula, and even the mummy are sure to end up in somebody's tummy.
It's Mantan Moreland, too.
Take a fresh rodent, some toadstools and weeds, and add an old owl and the young ones she breeds. Mix in 7 legs from an 8-legged piece, and then you're all set for a cannibal feast.
Okay, Jack, thanks a lot. We can go from there. Okay, Steve, tell us about the plot of Spider Baby.
The plot of Spider Baby. Well, in the opening, you have Mantan Moreland showing up with a package to deliver to the Mary family. And he can't get anybody to answer the door, so he puts his head through a window, and of course, Jill Banner attacks him. And
why don't we see that scene right now, okay? Mantan Moreland, first of all, Mantan Moreland was a star in the 40s, and a lot of African-American only films, also made films with Frankie Darro that were general release for Monogram. He also was in 2 Monogram films that have cult status. One is a John Carradine, Revenge of the Zombies, and the other one stars Henry Victor. What is that movie? King of the Zombies. Mantan's in that. Okay, let's watch this opening scene, which is a little bit jarring. It's good to see Mantan having a role, though. He was sort of X'd out of cinema for a long time.
Hello in there. Hello.
Jack Hill wanted Mantan Moreland in this film.
Hello.
That is Jill Banner playing Virginia.
I got you.
she has her spider web.
Bug right in my spider web. And now the spider gets to give the bug a big sting.
Got some Andy Milligan type special effects coming up there. Right there.
And somebody puts it in a box.
Yes, they discovered it.
And it's later discovered
And that
Virginia, are you
is
Beverly
crazy?
Washburn.
Okay, thanks. We can go away now, Jack. So why are these kids acting like this, Steve?
Because they have a genetic disorder of age regression. And so they have their family member Bruno, played by Lon Chaney.
I think he's more their caretaker, though.
Caretaker, excuse me. So they're kind of their age regression that's going on with these two. They're not really maturing.
And there are 3 of them right now. There's Ralph, Virginia, and what was her name, Elizabeth? And they're able to still go around, although Ralph is like a baby now. You'll see him. And there are some people in the basement. Uncle Ned is one of them, who are so far gone in this regression that they are like cannibals, just muling around out there. They keep them down in the basement. Lon Chaney promised their father that he would take care of them. But what's going to happen is there are other members of the family who don't know about this, and they're coming down there to see them, to take over. They're going to put the girls in an institution, and maybe Ralph also, and that's going to lead to a very chaotic night. Steve, tell us about some of the people in this movie, the stars and things
This
like that.
actress here on the left, maybe,
I don't think
maybe
they
it's
see her
not
yet,
being
though.
shown on the screen, but Mary Mitchell, that's in Spider Baby, that later arrives to the house with another character played by Carl Schanzer, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Those two actors both were in Dementia 13, which was a
great movie.
Martin Scorsese, or excuse me, a
Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola film, and I believe that Jack Hill was a second unit director on that film. So I'm making the assumption here that the two got this role in this film from the work they did on Dementia.
Well, they probably
13.
got it from Jack Hill, I think. Yeah. But you're right. He said, I worked with them. They're great. And do you know who Sid Haig is, like a name in cult, right? We'll see him later. He very young in this movie. Do you know Sid Haig was interviewed about working with Lon Chaney Jr., and he wanted to call him Mr. Chaney. And Chaney said, no, we're actors. We are equal here. I'll call you Sid, you call me Lon. I thought that was pretty cool,
That he's not the overly arrogant Hollywood actor.
No, Chaney was a great guy. I mean, we're going to see a scene with Chaney in a minute. Chaney was actually arguably more diverse than Karloff or Lugosi, because Chaney was in movies like The Defiant Ones with Sidney Poitier. He was in tons of Westerns. He was in Mice and Men early in his career. In fact, I think Chaney could have won Oscars in at least The Defiant Ones. I don't think he won an Oscar for Mice and Men, but he was very good in that one too. He had really good acting chops. He worked his way up. He didn't go... Oh, go on.
I was going to say, wasn't he in Al Adamson's The Female Bunch?
Yes, but he can barely talk in that one. That's one of his last films ever made. And of course, he's also worked in Dracula versus Frankenstein. Let's watch a scene now with Chaney. They're having dinner, and you got to watch Spider Baby. You can see it on YouTube, and you can just see Chaney. I want to get a scene with Chaney in here.
This very bizarre scene.
Yeah.
Dracula, Frankenstein.
And the mummy?
Oh, the mummy. I love the mummy.
That's
The way he walks,
yeah, like
steps scrape.
So this is Mary Mitchell I was talking about
Oh,
earlier.
and the Wolfman.
Wolfman. See, I think that's an homage to Chaney being the Wolfman. There he
There's
is.
going to
And
be
there's
a
Carl
full moon
Schanzer
tonight.
there on the left. He has his head cut off in Dementia 13.
And there's Sid Haig's character, Ralph. Although I'm sure, and there's Beverly Washburn as Elizabeth. These are creepy kids, but they're like children. And there's Jill Banner, who we'll talk about later.
Mentioned in a car accident.
Yeah, that's a tragedy. So what are some of the stuff they're eating? What's called fungi, they call it in the script or something?
Some of it looks like it's chopped up plant, but I'm not so sure.
They also kill a cat in this movie. And so the inference is, because Lon Chaney tells him, we're all vegetarians, but we made something for you. And the inference is that it's a cat. As it is, nobody really eats that much who visiting. So you have the situation where they're at the house, and some are going to spend the night there. Others are going to a motel ostensibly, but they come back. And this gets into a really chaotic night at the Mary house. By the way, what they have is the Mary syndrome. And this film actually starts out as kind of a documentary where this guy's talking about it in retrospect. At the beginning, he says, this family had the Mary syndrome. Here's their story. Let's watch another scene, because that's a little bit creepy here.
With Carol Omart.
I think Carol Omar's going to show up in it.
So this is the skeleton of the father.
Yeah, it's downstairs. Now here's Carol Omart.
Undressing.
And she is a very attractive woman. She was in House on Haunted Hill. And there's a reason that they have this scene, and we're just gonna, in the spirit of film history and being as transparent as we can, we want to share this with you. Carol Omart was a statuesque actress who always talked in a little bit of a sarcastic manner. in films.
And she's Vincent Price's wife in House on
There's
Haunted Hill.
so much vitriol
1959.
between her and Vincent Price in that movie.
So I'm looking for the strange Raggedy Ann doll that's up on the wall that's in the form of a crucifixion that I remember in this scene.
That might have been a little earlier. I apologize.
Maybe
if
it was
I
a little
missed
bit
it.
earlier.
Because I was looking for it. I saw something in a cradle at one point that was a doll also.
So here's Carl Schanzer.
Yeah, they do a good, Jack Hill did a good job of switching in between different plot twists, going from back to forth. Schanzer's a little bit too curious in this film. He's a snarky snark, more or less. And whenever you have a horror film, the snarkiest person, the biggest prick to say otherwise, generally gets it.
And notice that they have lots of taxidermed animals, which kind of reminds me of Norman Bates
That is a
in
good
Psycho.
point. That is a good point.
Even the opening shot in this film that shows the White Mansion from down below, the camera's looking up, kind of reminds me of the Bates home, even though it's not the same color, obviously.
This film was also called Spider Baby or the Maddest Story Ever Told. But they ran into some legal problems on that. Steve, do you know why they ran into legal problems of it being added the Maddest Story Ever
Well,
Told?
when we were talking about this earlier, you said something about the production going into bankruptcy, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
No, what happened was there was a film called The Greatest Story Ever Told. It had John Wayne in it and all these actors about Christ. And they didn't like the inference. I personally don't think that Spider Baby would have had any trouble using that, but they maybe didn't have the money, did they, to fight it? Or
And
something?
you mentioned some other titles that this film was.
Well, this film went into bankruptcy, and then David Hewitt bought it. David Hewitt's a cult figure who made movies like Mighty Gorga,
Wizard of Mars,
Journey to the Center of the Earth, or
The Center of Time.
Center of Time. And he made also one of the worst horror films, although I love it, Gallery of Horror.
With John Carradine.
With John Carradine. So Hewitt was involved peripherally in this movie, Spider Baby. So he bought it. And he opened it in 1967 with Wizard of Mars. The irony is, Hewitt's films weren't that great. Although I do love Monsters in the Pajama Party or something like that.
Monsters Crash,
yeah.
The Pajama Party.
So, but the thing is, this wonderful movie, Spider Baby, was considered a classic today, played second bill to David Hewitt films, a wonderful irony and totally Hollywood. Some of the titles were Liver Eaters, they used also, Cannibal Orgy, and they used The Maddest Story Ever Told. So once again, because it was in this situation of limbo where it wasn't really lost, but they were only really, really crappy dupes for a long time. And then Johnny Legend and somebody else, and Jack Hill, I think, got together with other people in the 1990s and restored this movie, Spider Baby, and they barnstormed it across the country. Let's go to another scene right now, Jack. Now, let's kill Omar, and she's dressed rather scantily right now. If there are some, if there, I think the scariest scenes near the end involve, our snarky lawyer, involve Omar. She really goes through a lot in this film. This is some of the chaos of the evening. Lon Chaney is gone. I'm not going to tell you why he went away for a little while because it would hurt the plot. Okay, this movie was, I think they wanted to. This is also a comedy, Steve. Wouldn't you agree to some degree, a dark comedy? At times,
it has some dark elements of dark comedy, definitely.
Yeah, I mean it's a horrifying story. And it's a very unique story, but there's some comedy in this movie, particularly when they're taking care of the kids and things like that. And what's interesting is no matter what these kids do, Chaney generally loves them and wants to take care of them. And he's trying his hardest, but unfortunately, although they're the ones we should be rooting for, the people that come in almost seem like interlopers, right? In this film.
Like they're the people that are disturbing everything, and we don't cheer for them at all.
No, although you have to admit they did kill Mantan Moreland right at the beginning, but you don't cheer for them because you sort of kind of want this family to just hang together because you know Chaney's trying so hard to keep them there and everything. Well, let's now. Jill Banner. She was a young actress. She was in a movie called The President's Plane is Missing. She was in a lot of Dragnet episodes. If you watch the Dragnet episodes, I know Jack does. If you watch the Dragnet episodes from the late 60s and early 70s, Jill Banner's in 8 or 9 episodes. Beautiful actress. She sort of moved away from Hollywood. She worked for Marlon Brando, and she was tragically killed in the 80s, I think, in a car accident. Jill Banner, I was reading one of those fan magazines. You know, they have genre magazines. And it's kind of tragic because when they interviewed her about this movie, she was very dismissive of this film and saying it was one of the worst things she ever did. But you know what? That's because this film disappeared for a while. If she was still alive, I think she'd probably be going to fan shows today, don't you?
Well, you made an interesting comment one time when we were watching The Sadist with Arch Hall Jr., and you said if The Sadist had been a bigger budget movie, Arch Hall Jr. would probably be a bigger star, and I feel the same with her role in this film.
Oh, I think you're right.
She would have been a bigger star had she gone on after this film.
Another thing is, if we had like Sundance film festivals to show these movies, it would even say this. It would really help. Now, we're going to show a scene. Well, First, we're going to show a sort of creepy scene where two people, basically the heroes of this movie, Quinn Redeker and Mary Mitchell, if there are heroes, come back because they can't get they can't get a motel, and they're going to come back to a chaotic, hellish scene right now. But the two girls are very sweet but very menacing when they greet them. See if we can find that one.
Good evening, Uncle Peter.
Good evening, Uncle Peter. Now,
And see, they don't know what's been going on.
No, he's away. Won't you come in?
this is so creepy.
Do come in.
These are two little demons. All right, thank you.
How about Aunt Emily? Is she around?
What's interesting is Quinn Redeker's character is a good guy in this movie, but don't you notice how he sort of is totally unaware of how dangerous they are throughout the film?
Well, that's the comment I made a few minutes ago. Is that it's like they don't even realize what's going on. They're just kind of oblivious to it all.
He talks about Ralph. Ralph's just a big kid. Ralph's. There are inferences in this film. I don't know if they flat out say it, that Ralph rapes some of the women in this movie, all right? He's like a big kid with the brain of a 1-year-old. Now, Jill Banner is probably in her teens in this movie, and there's a scene right now that is a little bit disturbingly sexy, all right, in this movie, where she plays a game of Spider with Quinn Redeker, and we're going to let it go for a while, and it's an interesting scene. Spider is her game when she kills people, and he's not taking anything seriously. And here we go.
What happens when the spider gets the bug all wrapped up in a web?
Aha, I won't tell.
All right. How long does it take to play this game?
Oh, we're almost done.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
There now.
I love the dumbwaiter that's in
Yeah,
this
that
film.
is great.
They transport things up and down the different levels of the house, like
Ralph with Mary Mitchell, right?
in the dumbwaiter.
Hey, what's the spider do now?
What? Oh, yes. Now the spider does a little dance.
This is better than the Holly Dance in Troll 2, right?
It's almost like she's seducing him.
I know, it's very disturbing because I don't know.
Will taste better.
It's almost like this should play on 42nd Street.
Virginia, I
Maybe.
think we better play another game.
Maybe this was a grindhouse film at
Do
some
you like that pretty
point.
lady?
It might have been.
Yes. Yes, I do.
There's the scene where she's.
Do you like me?
He's totally uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
Spiders like bugs. They taste good. But I guess bugs don't like spiders very much.
I like spiders. I like spiders.
I do too. Well,
She's about to sting him right there. Well, Steve, what more do you want to say about this movie right now?
Well, I would say the most, and it's something that you open this episode with, but probably the strangest aspect of this film is Lon Chaney's laughter at the beginning and his singing. It really reminds me of when John Carradine did the opening song,
Night Train?
Mundo Fine,
Yeah,
which is
good
the
point.
Francis, or Coleman
Francis
Coleman
movie.
Francis movie, Night Train to Mundo
It's a
Fine.
bit of an endurance test, but we love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. John Carradine also sang. I wonder if they got a few extra bucks for doing that.
Some of that animation at the beginning of this film reminds me of animation that Roger Corman would use, like in Creature from the Haunted Sea and also Little Shop of Horrors. So I don't know if it's the same animator or not.
It might be. Also, we haven't mentioned that people like Coppola and Hill, they learned at the foot of Roger Corman. Jack Hill did. They say Jack Hill did a lot of the directing for The Terror, even though he wasn't the official director for it, which is a Corman film with Boris Karloff and a young Jack Nicholson. Well, Spider Baby, great movie, and it's out there everywhere. I don't know if it has a Blu-ray. It should someday if they get one. But you can watch it on YouTube tonight if you want to. It's a wonderful 80-plus minutes, and it's a classic. It's a legitimate classic. A lot like Carnival of Souls, it's a film that took a long time to be discovered because it was in an era where they just didn't have the things like a Sundance Festival or something like that.
No VHS,
No VHS.
no DVD.
But VHS probably played a role in this film getting known, right?
Mhm.
20 years later and everything. Anyways, this is Steve Stones. I'm Doug Gibson, and we're at Plan 9 Crunch at YouTube. Give us a subscribe. We're also at Plan 9 Crunch on TikTok, and we're Plan 9 Crunch podcast and blog on Facebook, where you can like or follow us there. And we have a blog. Steve and I have had it since 2008, plan9crunch.com. And we appreciate talking about Spider Baby. We'll be back, and that's a wrap.
Thanks, everyone.